If you can draw these simple forms, the ball, cone, cube, and cylinder, you can draw a real picture the very first time you try.
I had an uncle, his name was John Nagy, who had a television show, Learn to Draw.
Today we're going to draw a snow scene in which we make the paper work for us. We don't have to do too much work ourselves.
And he would design these drawings that he could then teach other people how to do.
Just put in those ragged strokes, always remembering that a pine tree is a rough cone form. That post, you know, is a cylinder form. So you shade it down the left like this to really make it round out. Remember, our light's coming from the upper right. Yes, it used to be that the mailbox was the chief point of contact. But you know, nowadays, a lot of these folks have television.
You know, I knew him, and I just got the feeling that it never occurred to him to come up with a painting or a drawing that he couldn't tell someone else step by step how to do. So I was just a child, but that influenced me. Whenever I design a project, it's in my head while I'm designing it that I would be able to show someone else how to do it.
This looks a little bare up here, but for now it's okay, I guess.
The drawings that I sent to Sao Paulo were done in 1989, and they were created from templates that I made in 1988. The stimulus for this particular series that I call Drawings were triggered by an interest in heraldry and the way that families come up with images to represent their family. And I was thinking about symbols, and I was thinking, well, okay, we typically create singular symbols so that we can all feel we belong. Like we look at the American flag and we say, oh, we're all Americans. It occurred to me that if one used a certain kind of logic and really worked at it, one could come up with a system that would produce a shape for everybody on the planet. The idea of trying to picture a billion or a million is something we think we can do, but we can't. Say you're a general in the army and you have to send all these troops out to have a battle, and you know only so many are going to come back. And it's going to break your heart and make you sick unless you start thinking of them as all alike in some way. Just soldiers, just units, you know, and I mean, that's an extreme example, but there's times when you have to think about people in categories or you'll go crazy. But that can go wrong also, and it's something you have to watch and think about.
One of the things that I'm a little concerned about is when you get like a whole bunch of the same width and the same, you know, that's just another thing to...
Wait, you mean like the size?
Like you don't want two the same size together, you don't want two the same width together, you don't want two the... I mean, it's so funny, and that's nothing to do with what's in the frame, you know. Sometimes you can't do anything about it, but if you can, you know, shift it so that... Yeah, I mean, that's just one thing.
In my youth, I worked in factories quite a lot. I mean, I worked in industrial kitchens quite a lot. And my parents worked in factories. I found myself wanting to try to work in quantities and make things that were singular and unique at the same time. We probably define uniqueness by thinking, oh, it's not mass-produced. I felt I wanted to resolve that on a higher level. But there is, of course, the drama of thousands of things. It can be nightmarish, or it can be wonderful feeling of abundance, and it can go back and forth. And there's a lot of emotionality when you see thousands of things. Some people would want to run out of the room when there's too many objects to look at, and other people would stand there in awe. There's also a kind of a science fiction element in here, where of like something that sort of takes over and grows. When I'm juggling ideas of what I'm going to do next, one of the considerations that's major always in my mind is, does it make a good story? I put it in my mind that it would be interesting to work with people I'd never met, that I only communicated with over email or telephone. Like you go in to see the Shapes from Maine exhibit. Well, it could just be looked at as a bunch of little decorative objects. But there's a story that goes with it. You can tell it rather quickly. I wanted it to be, oh, the artist went on the internet. The artist found 4 people from the state of Maine, all of whom worked from their homes and all of whom made shapes, and he never met them. It was sort of about the exotic, faraway place. I mean, which to me, I've only been to Maine once in my life, and it seems very exotic to me, Maine. And I started becoming interested in people who had businesses in their homes, and also kind of very independent, and kind of like the contrary to our obsession with globalism right now, you know, is that there were people locally all around us working in their homes, making thousands of things. I looked on the web. I looked up Maine, you know, on Googled Maine, craft, home, you know, all the words that would lead me to people who worked at home and made craft in Maine. And I had to sift through hundreds and hundreds of, and slowly realize this is a huge thing in Maine, you know, people working at home, making crafts and then selling them on the internet. I chose a narrow group of them who basically did shapes, like rubber stamps, ornaments, silhouettes, and cookie cutters. And then I wrote them lengthy emails about my work and what my interests were and why I wanted to do this. I mean, emails that much too long, I'm sure.
I had no idea who he was. My first thought was that he might be a kid claiming to be an artist, of course. You don't ever know on an email. And then after I investigated and went to his website, I found out that he was quite an accomplished contemporary artist.
The cookie cutter people, I don't know. I don't know how they, I never watched how they did what they did. So they invented a way they hadn't done before. I do know that they used to make snowflakes, and there's no way this shape is more complicated than the snowflakes they were making.
Some of his shapes were very difficult. It was challenging. And actually, I would say after making the shapes for Alan that I'm improved. I mean, I'm better at what I do because of that project. Because I actually learned how to do some things better.
I've been doing combinatorial projects for 40 years. All my projects have had combinatorial elements where I'm taking a vocabulary of parts and putting them together to make something else, you know. Which is very computer-like, but there was never any computer involved. The closest things to the Shapes project was the Drawings project and the Individual Works project, neither of which involved any computers. The drawings even looked like the shapes that I'm working on now, but they were all done by hand with pencil. And I didn't have a computer at that time. In those days, I was using photocopiers and stencils and things like that. Whereas if I had to do this with stencils, it would have taken me an hour. But what I can do now is just reach up here and copy one shape like that, and then go over here and copy another one. And then I can put those together, and then copy a bottom and put that together, and then copy, you know, a bottom that goes on the right, and we'll put that together.
and then I have a shape. And it has its own ID number. I mean, this just doesn't take very long. So with these 4 shapes, I can make around 200 or so million unique shapes. But there's another system where I use 6 shapes. And then there are these things I call necks, like your neck. Like this is a body with a neck, and then the top part is a head. So then once you start using this system, you can produce 60 billion shapes. Once I got all the shapes made, I started combining them into tops and bottoms. Then instead of making 4 parts, I would only have to put together 2 at a time. Then I put them in what I call arrays of 144. So I can copy this array and combine it with this array. Then I'm making 144 shapes at once, and that's called a collection. That's how I produce them, in collections of 144. The number 144, there's an irony to it, because it's considered a gross in industry. This is one of the collections that was sent to the Horace Farnham to do the wooden shapes.
Everyone is absolutely unique. Everyone is different. Some, you sit there and you work with them, you cut with them, and it's almost like sitting in a psychologist's office and you see shapes. This is a wolf head, this is an angel, this is... so it's fun. It's soft enough that it won't cause any damage unless you're doing it for an hour or 2. It's what thieves do to take off their fingerprints.
The idea of making an object for everybody in the world is absurd. Yeah, of course. I mean, I couldn't possibly do it, but it would be nice if everyone in the world, doesn't it sound like a child talking? If everyone in the world could agree on a symbolic system, you know, and it hasn't happened yet, but I think it might, you know, one day.
Art in the 21st Century and its educational resources, please visit us online at pbs.org. Art 21, Art in the 21st Century, is available on Blu-ray and DVD. The companion book is also available. To order, visit us online at shoppbs.org or call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.